mirror does not reflect the truth, it reflects the verdict. Imagine a man standing in the low, amber light of a room just before dawn. He stares at his own image. The glass, a cold, unyielding barrier between his physical reality and his internal landscape. His face is a map of 1,000 decisions, some his own, some inherited from the ghosts of his lineage. In this silence, he is not merely observing a human form, he is witnessing the result of a silent, invisible negotiation that has been occurring for years. Every morning, long before the sun cracks the horizon, he has been signing a contract with the universe. He does not use a quill or parchment. He uses a vibration, a specific, two-word frequency that ripples outward from his throat, through the air, and into the fabric of existence. I am. These two words are the most potent alchemical agents in the human experience. They are not merely grammatical subjects followed by a predicate. They are the anchors of identity. When this man says, "I am tired," he believes he is offering a simple status report. He believes he is an objective observer reporting the weather of his life. But he is mistaken. He is not a reporter. He is an architect. And in that moment, he has just drafted a blueprint for exhaustion. The universe, a faithful and literal-minded servant, does not hear a complaint, it hears a decree. It sees a specification for the day ahead and immediately begins to align the molecules, the opportunities, and the very marrow of the man's bones to match the vibration of the word tired. He stands there, trapped by a reality he thinks he is describing, failing to realize he is the one who summoned it. This is the paradox of human existence. We walk through the world feeling like victims of a script written by someone else, never realizing that the script is being written by our own mouths, in real time, with every breath. The trap is so subtle, so deeply woven into the mundane fabric of daily conversation, that we have become prisoners of our own vocabulary. To recognize this is to witness the most profound pattern interruption of one's life. The mirror is not a mirror, it is a confession. And the question remains, what has this man been confessing to the void? To understand the mechanics of this phenomenon, one must look beyond the psychological surface and delve into the metaphysical architecture of the self. Why do these two words hold such dominion over a human life? The answer lies in the nature of identification. Psychologically, the brain is a prediction machine. It constructs a model of the self based on past experiences and the labels bestowed upon us by others. When a child is told, "You are the difficult one," or "You are not enough," those words are not merely suggestions. They are psychic imprints. Because the child lacks the cognitive autonomy to reject these labels, they ingest them as foundational truths. They become the bedrock of the subconscious mind. But why, as adults, do we continue to reinforce these patterns? The why is found in the need for internal consistency. The human psyche abhors dissonance. If a person has spent 20 years declaring, "I am unlucky," their nervous system will actively filter out opportunities for prosperity because those opportunities do not align with the identity of the unlucky one. To accept a stroke of good fortune would be to violate the contract they have signed with themselves. They sabotage their own success to remain honest to their established identity. The how is even more insidious. Through the mechanism of recursive thought, we create a feedback loop. We believe a thing, we speak that thing, and the universe, acting as a perfect, non-judgmental mirror, manifests that thing. We then look at the manifestation and say, "See, I knew it was true." This creates a closed system, a self-sealing reality that is, in essence, a prison of our own design. We must ask, if the I am is the creative frequency of existence, what happens when it is misdirected? The answer is a fragmentation of potential. By attaching I am to temporary conditions, feelings, bank balances, social standing, we effectively freeze the flow of our evolution. We take the infinite, fluid nature of the spirit and force it into the static box of a label. We make the mistake of identifying the tenant, the divine spark, with the house, the temporary, material condition. The deconstruction of this habit requires a violent clarity. We are not describing a state of affairs. We are commanding a reality. The I am is the let there be of the internal world. Every time it is followed by a limitation, a curse, or a belief in lack, we are using the most powerful creative tool in the universe to dismantle our own potential. The truth is that we have been using the wand of the Creator to strike ourselves in the dark. Consider the story of Calin, a man who believed he was a prisoner of his station. Calin was a stonecutter, a man whose hands were calloused and whose spirit was worn thin by the weight of the quarry. Every day, as he struck the granite, he murmured the same rhythmic curse. I am a slave to this stone. I am destined for nothing more than the dust. He believed he was merely being realistic. He looked at his dirt-stained clothes and his meager bowl of rice and felt that to speak anything else would be a lie. He watched the masters of the city walk by in their silk robes and thought, "They are meant for greatness. I am meant for the quarry." One afternoon, an elderly traveler sat beside him, watching him work. The traveler did not speak of tools or wages. He simply watched the stonecutter's lips move. "You are a very precise man, Calin," the traveler said. "I am a man of labor," Calin replied, spitting into the dust. "I am unlearned and poor." The traveler smiled, a look of profound compassion in his eyes. "You speak with the authority of a king, yet you use your power to build a cage. Do you not see? You are not cutting stone. You are cutting yourself out of the possibilities of the world. Every time you declare what you are, you harden the material of your life into the shape of your word." Calin scoffed. "My life is exactly as I say it is. My bank is empty, and my back is broken. If I say I am a king, does the gold appear? Does the pain vanish? No. I am merely being honest." The traveler stood, pointing to the mountain of stone surrounding them. The stone has no opinion of its own. It does not know if it is a temple or a tomb. It waits for the sculptor to tell it what to be. Your life is the stone, Calin. Your words are the chisel. By saying I am poor, you are not reporting your poverty. You are defining it, justifying it, and ensuring its permanence. You have mistaken the current shape of the rock for the final work of art. Calin looked at his chisel. He looked at the mountain. For the first time, he understood that he had not been a servant to the stone had been a servant to his decree. The tragedy was not his poverty. The tragedy was that he had become so efficient at creating it that he had forgotten he held the chisel at all. He had been a master of his craft, but a stranger to his own power. The transition from the prisoner of one's words to the architect of one's reality does not happen through a grand, sweeping gesture. It happens in the quiet interval between the thought and the utterance. You must begin today by becoming the observer of your own decrees. For the next 24 hours, treat your I am statements as if they were holy relics. They are not to be discarded lightly in the service of complaining or venting. When you catch yourself about to say, I am tired, pause. Feel the vibration of the word in your throat. Recognize the authority you are wielding. If the truth of your current condition feels heavy, acknowledge it without attaching your identity to it. Say instead, I am experiencing fatigue, rather than I am a fatigued person. This distinction is the cornerstone of your new architecture. You are moving from a state of being to a state of experiencing. When you separate your identity from your temporary circumstances, you regain the leverage necessary to shift those circumstances. You are the sovereign of your internal state. You are the only voice that the universe, in its deep and silent wisdom, is waiting to obey. Do not let this power slip through your fingers like sand. Your words are not reflections. They are the causes of the world you inhabit. If this realization has sparked a flame within you, if you feel the weight of the old contracts beginning to dissolve, I invite you to join this collective journey of reclamation. By subscribing, you anchor your intention to this path of mastery, ensuring that you receive each step of this unfolding blueprint. But we have only just begun to touch the hem of the garment. We have discussed the I am, the foundation of the identity, but there remains a dangerous silence that many fall into, a gap between the declaration of who you are and the manifestation of what you possess. There is a second, equally critical frequency that, when misunderstood, traps many in the cycle of waiting forever. In our next chapter, we will cross the bridge from identity to possession. We will tackle the mystery of the I have, and why, for so many, this statement feels like an act of betrayal against reality. We will show you how to feel the possession of the destination before the evidence appears in your hands. The wand is in your hand. The air is ready to be shaped, and the next command is already rising in your throat. Are you ready to see what happens when the architect finally draws a palace? Stand beneath the canopy of a star-drenched sky, far from the artificial hum of the city, where the darkness is so profound it feels velvet thick against the skin. Look up. Consider the ancient light that has traveled across unimaginable eons to reach the retinas of your eyes. In this vast, silent theater of the cosmos, there is a fundamental vibration, a hum, that precedes the formation of galaxies and the birth of atoms. Now, close your eyes and feel the pulse within your own throat. There is a curious, unsettling paradox in the human condition. We stand as fragile, fleeting biological entities under the weight of an infinite universe, yet we possess a linguistic key that unlocks the same frequency that brought the stars into existence. In the ancient, hushed sanctuaries of history, when the divine was petitioned for a name, the response was not a title to be venerated from afar, nor a label to be categorized by the mind. It was a state of being, I am that I am. This was not a name, it was a revelation of the creative frequency. It is the sound of existence aware of itself. Most humans wander through their lives as if they are shouting into a vacuum, oblivious to the fact that they are standing inside the very engine of creation. Every time you utter those two words, you are not merely engaging in speech, you are dialing the frequency of your internal broadcasting station. The tragedy of the modern soul is that it has forgotten it carries this divine frequency in its mouth. We are like children playing with a master key, using it to lock ourselves out of the very rooms we were born to rule. The air around you is currently saturated with the echoes of your past decrees, creating a fog of your own making. But tonight, the air grows still. The frequency is shifting. To grasp the power of the divine frequency, one must move beyond the literal interpretation of words and into the mechanics of spiritual resonance. We often treat language as a medium for communication, a way to convey information from one mind to another. However, in the realm of the spirit, language is not communication, it is causation. Why is the I am the ultimate creative frequency? It is because I am is the only point in the universe where the unmanifested becomes the manifested. Before a thought is clothed in the I am, it is merely a ghost, a potentiality, a flickering shadow in the garden of the mind. The moment you state I am, you collapse the wave of infinite possibilities into a single, concrete reality. You are, in effect, acting as the bridge between the divine mind and the material plane. How does this work? It operates on the law of sympathetic resonance. Think of a tuning fork. When you strike a fork tuned to a specific pitch, any other instrument in the room tuned to that same frequency will begin to vibrate, even if it is not touched. By stating I am, followed by a specific quality, you are striking a tuning fork in the ether. The universe, being a field of infinite, responsive intelligence, begins to vibrate in sympathy with that decree. Why then, if this is a law as immutable as gravity, does the average person manifest a life of mediocrity? The answer lies in the why of our habitual misuse. We have been conditioned to believe that our external circumstances are the cause, and our internal states are merely the effect. We look at a bank statement, and seeing a deficit, we declare, "I am broke." We invert the causality. We have been trained to report on the state of the movie screen rather than adjusting the film in the projector. Because we believe our power is limited, we have surrendered the authority of our voice to the circumstances that surround us. How can we invert this cycle? By recognizing that the divine frequency is inherently non-judgmental. It does not possess a moral compass that distinguishes between good and bad. It operates with the impersonal precision of a mathematical equation. It does not argue with your logic. It simply executes your command. If you declare, "I am tired," the frequency is set to depletion. If you declare, "I am vibrant," the frequency is set to renewal. The divine frequency does not ask, "Are you sure you want to experience this?" It asks only, "What is the frequency of your next decree?" To understand this is to realize that the struggle you feel, the friction between your desires and your current reality, is not evidence of a hostile universe. It is evidence that you are operating the frequency, but you are broadcasting a signal that contradicts your highest good. You have been broadcasting a signal of lack, and the universe has been dutifully organizing your life to match that lack. To shift, you must stop being a spectator of the signal and become the master of the transmitter. In the opulent city of Ethelgard, there lived a legendary composer named Elias. Elias was known throughout the realm not for his physical strength, but for his ability to summon the winds and calm the storms. It was whispered in the taverns that he held a secret, a tuning fork carved from a fallen star that could dictate the state of the elements. One day, a young student approached Elias, desperate to learn the craft. "Master," the boy pleaded, "I have tried to change the weather, but the clouds remain stubborn. I use the same songs you use. I hold the same posture. Why does the sky not listen to me?" Elias looked at the boy, then at the tuning fork on the table. "You believe the power is in the song," Elias said softly. "You believe the power is in the rhythm. But the song is merely the container. The power is in the silence before the note is struck." Elias led the boy to a room lined with thousands of glass bells, each tuned to a different note. "Pick one," he commanded. The boy struck a bell. It rang with a discordant, shrill sound. "Again," Elias said. The boy struck it again, but he did not clear his mind. He was worried about his hunger, his cold feet, his lack of status in the city. The sound was harsh, metallic, and fleeting. "You are striking the bell with a fractured heart," Elias noted. "You are attempting to command the heavens while your own soul is in a state of chaos. You must realize that when you make a declaration, the entire universe is present in that single sound. If you are not in alignment with the truth of your own divinity, your decree will be nothing more than noise." Elias took the fork, breathed deeply, and allowed the tension in his shoulders to dissipate. He stood for a long moment in total silence, connecting with the quiet, expansive void beneath the floorboards of the world. Then, with a gentle, deliberate motion, he struck the bell. The sound was not merely a note, it was a transformation. The room filled with a warm, golden resonance that seemed to vibrate in the very marrow of the student's bones. The air felt charged, expectant, alive. It was as if the room itself had rearranged its atoms to accommodate the majesty of the sound. "The frequency of the source is not a vibration you produce," Elias whispered. "It is a vibration you allow to flow through you. You are the instrument, and your voice is the tuning fork. Stop trying to force the universe to change. Start vibrating at the frequency of what you wish to summon." The student watched, mesmerized, as the golden sound lingered in the air long after the metal had ceased to tremble. He realized then that he had been shouting at the world, trying to command it from a place of smallness, when the secret was to become large enough to hold the frequency before the word was ever spoken. The embodiment of this truth requires a shift in your daily posture. It is time to treat your voice as a consecrated instrument. For the remainder of today, observe the quality of the sounds you emit. Notice how often your speech is hurried, defensive, or resigned. Notice the disconnect between your inner state and the words you project into the world. To integrate the divine frequency, you must implement the practice of the pre-speech pause. Before you answer a question, before you make a request, before you initiate a conversation, take a singular, deep, intentional breath. In that breath, center your awareness. Remember that you are about to strike a tuning fork in the ether. Ask yourself, does this decree align with the frequency of the life I am building? If you find yourself about to complain about your circumstances, stop, redirect. If you feel the weight of a difficult day, do not say, I am exhausted. Say, I am in the process of recharging my divine energy. You are not lying. You are describing the direction of your internal state. You are setting the frequency. If you are finding resonance in this teaching, if the concept of the divine frequency has begun to echo within your own consciousness, I encourage you to hit the like button, a small, outward expression that signals your readiness to receive more of this alignment. Join our growing circle by subscribing so that we may continue to build this architecture of truth together. But listen closely. There is a danger in simply speaking. Many believe that if they just say the words, the world must change. They walk around repeating I am wealthy, while their hands remain empty and their hearts remain cluttered with the debris of the past. They are missing a vital component, a secret key that transforms a mere affirmation into an irresistible command. They are missing the state of I have. In the next chapter, we will venture into the most misunderstood territory of the spiritual path. We will peel back the layers of the I have declaration, uncovering why so many struggle to feel the possession of their desires while they are still invisible. We will bridge the daunting gap between the phantom of the future and the reality of the present. The tuning fork is in your hand. The silence is ready to be broken. Are you prepared to learn the secret of the master composer? The hour is late, and the room is bathed in the cold, blue luminescence of a laptop screen or the flickering, tired glow of a desk lamp. On the table before the observer lies a physical manifestation of modern anxiety. An unpaid invoice, a thin document that carries the weight of a mountain. To the eye of the casual observer, it is merely paper and ink, a data point of debt. But to the one who stares at it, it is a mirror, a cold, indifferent reflection of an inner state. As the observer looks at the numbers, a familiar, hollow ache begins to stir in the solar plexus. The lips part, and the two words are whispered, not as a choice, but as an involuntary recoil, I am drowning. In that moment, the atmosphere of the room shifts. It is a subtle, almost imperceptible atmospheric change, like the drop in pressure before a storm. The statement is not merely a description of the bank balance. It is a creative act. The observer has just taken the infinite, formless potential of their own soul and compressed it into the shape of a shipwreck. They have looked at a pile of rubble, the evidence of a temporary, external condition, and instead of calling for the builders, they have identified themselves as the ruin. It is a paradox of the human condition. We claim to desire abundance, yet we spend our most precious energy realistically cataloging the very evidence of our scarcity. We treat the world like a courtroom where we are both the defendant and the witness, testifying against ourselves with a fervor that would be admirable if it were not so destructive. The I am has been turned against the I. The architect has mistaken the temporary collapse of a wall for the total destruction of the palace. The room is silent, yet the decree has been issued, and the universe, ever a faithful listener, begins to arrange the shadows to match the silhouette of a drowning man. To understand why the human spirit is so drawn to the architecture of lack, we must peer into the subconscious mechanics of the ego. We often mistake our realism for wisdom. We tell ourselves, I am not being negative. I am simply being honest about the facts. This is the foundational lie of the ego. Why do we cling to this brand of honesty? The answer lies in the safety of the known. The ego is a creature of habit. It finds a perverted sense of security in its limitations because they are predictable. If you have always been the person who is just getting by, then being just getting by is your home. To step outside of that, to claim a new identity, is to enter the wilderness of the unknown. The ego fears the vast, uncharted territory of potential more than it fears the familiarity of the cage. How does this recursive cycle of limitation function? It begins with the observation. You look at the rubble, the broken relationship, the stagnant career, the empty account. You then filter this observation through the lens of your past, concluding that your present state is a permanent, objective reality. Then, you make the decree, I am this state. This decree acts as a magnetic signal. It instructs your subconscious mind to scan the horizon for anything that confirms your status as a broken or limited person. Because the mind is a master of confirmation bias, it finds exactly what it is looking for. It ignores the opportunities for growth and highlights the failures, thereby validating your original decree. You then point to this validation and say, "See, I was right. I am limited. The loop is closed. The prison is sealed." How, then, does one break this cycle of self-entrapment? The philosophical solution is to realize that honesty regarding your circumstances is irrelevant if you are the creator of those circumstances. If you are an architect, you do not survey the pile of debris at a construction site and define the project by the garbage. You define the project by the blueprints of the palace you intend to build. The how of this transformation involves a radical shift in perspective. You must stop reporting on the contents of your life and start commanding the context of your life. Lack is not a quality of the soul. It is a temporary physical condition of the environment. By identifying yourself as the condition, you fix it in place. By identifying yourself as the architect, you gain the power to move it. You must learn to distinguish between the facts, which are fluid, and the truth, which is eternal. The fact is that your bank account is low. The truth is that you are an infinite being. When you merge the two, you effectively strangle your own potential. To flourish, you must let go of the need to be realistically miserable and embrace the necessity of being spiritually visionary. In the fabled city of Oakhaven, there lived an artisan named Julian. Julian was a master of fresco painting, commissioned to decorate the walls of the Great Hall. His talent was such that he could make a flat surface appear to have infinite depth, drawing the eye into landscapes of impossible beauty. Yet, despite his skill, Julian lived in a small, windowless basement, convinced that his lot in life was to be a shadow dweller. Every day, Julian would complain to the neighbors, "I am a prisoner of my poverty. I am a man whom the world has forgotten." One day, a wealthy patron visited his basement, intending to offer him a grand commission for the king's palace. The patron looked around, shocked by the squalor, but his eyes were drawn to a single wall. On it, Julian had painted a masterpiece, a picture of a magnificent, open window looking out over a golden city, so realistic that the birds would fly toward it. "Julian," the patron said, "why do you live in this dark box when you possess the power to create a window to the world?" Julian sighed, gesturing to the wall. "That is just a painting, sir. It is a trick of the light. My reality is this basement. I am a poor, forgotten man. That painting is merely a dream I hold to keep from going mad." The patron stepped forward and placed his hand against the painted window. It was cold, hard stone. "You have spent your life painting beautiful illusions while refusing to believe in the reality of your own vision. You define yourself by the basement, so the basement is all you see. You have the skills of a king, but the perspective of a servant." The patron left, and Julian sat in the dark, looking at the window he had painted. He realized, with a sudden shivering clarity, that the patron was right. He had been so busy being honest about the basement that he had refused to step through the window he had created with his own hands. He had used his creative genius to decorate his prison rather than to open it. The next day, Julian did not go to the market to complain. He went to his canvas. He stopped painting windows that led nowhere. He began to paint a door that looked exactly like the one he would walk through when he finally left the basement. He looked at the walls of his home and stopped calling them my prison. He began to call them the foundation of my future residence. He shifted his speech, his posture, and his belief. Within a month, the very patron who had visited him returned, not because he heard a plea for help, but because he saw a man who had already moved out of the darkness and into the light of his own decree. The mastery of this truth begins with a simple, yet courageous, rejection of the realist trap. Today, you are called to audit your language. When you encounter a situation that feels like a fact of lack, an unpaid bill, a closed door, a moment of loneliness, you must refuse to sign the contract of identity. The practice is as follows. When the temptation arises to say, "I am broke," stop, pivot. Say instead, "I am currently holding the space for my abundance to arrive." When you feel the urge to say, "I am always ignored," pause. Reframe it. "I am in the process of being prepared for the audience that will truly value my contribution." You are not denying the physical reality. You are refusing to be governed by it. You are the architect, and an architect does not panic when the foundation is uneven. They fix the foundation. They do not identify the building by the uneven ground. They identify the building by the beauty of the design. If you are finding the strength to lay down the old narratives of lack and pick up the chisel of your true design, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. By doing so, you are declaring to the digital ether that you are committed to the path of the master architect. Each step we take together is a stone in the wall of your new reality. But there is a catch, a subtle, hidden mechanism that keeps the physical world from shifting, even when you begin to change your speech. Many of you are doing the work, yet the world seems to mock your efforts. You are speaking the words, yet the material reality remains stubbornly, maddeningly the same. Why does this happen? Is the law broken? Is the universe deaf? No. The delay is not a denial. The delay is a test of your structural integrity. In our next chapter, we will dive into the physics of the bone. We will explore how the sound you make travels not just into the air, but through your own skeletal structure, vibrating into the very marrow of your DNA. We will uncover why your subconscious mind is not just a garden, but a projector, and how you can stop the flickering of the old film once and for all. The basement is dark, but the window you have painted is beginning to glow with the light of the coming dawn. Do you feel the vibration in your bones? The structure is changing. Prepare yourself. The next phase of the construction is about to begin. The chamber is utterly silent, save for the rhythmic, steady cadence of a single heartbeat. Imagine a person sitting in the center of this stillness, eyes closed, lips parted just enough to allow the passage of breath. Outside, the world is a clamor of static, a hurricane of competing opinions and fragmented realities. But here, in the sanctuary of the inner self, the world falls away. There is a profound, almost jarring paradox in the act of speech. We believe we are speaking to the world, pushing our words out into the vast, indifferent expanse of the atmosphere. We imagine our voices dissipating like smoke caught by the winds of circumstance. Yet, there is a secret physics at play, a hidden mechanism of transmission that most have never considered. When you speak, you are not merely projecting a sound wave through the air. You are, first and foremost, a resonator. A full 90% of the vibration generated by your own voice travels not through the air to reach others, but directly through the dense, conductive architecture of your own skull, through the jaw, the sinuses, and the skeletal frame directly into the inner ear and the brain. You are the primary audience of your own existence. You are, at every moment, the most significant broadcaster of your own frequency. The person sitting in the silence realizes this with a sudden, electric clarity. They have been living as a victim of external noise, failing to recognize that they are walking around with a built-in, high-fidelity broadcasting system tuned to their own nervous system. The static they hear is not coming from the world. It is the feedback loop of their own unmonitored transmissions. They have been vibrating their own bones with the frequency of their own doubts, and then wondering why the marrow of their life feels brittle. To grasp the physics of the bone is to understand the absolute primacy of the self-referential loop. Why is it that the sound vibrating through your own bone structure carries more weight than the loudest shout from the outside world? The answer lies in the biology of the brain's perception. Your subconscious mind, the fertile soil of your reality, does not distinguish between a fact presented by the world and a command issued by your own voice. Because the vibration of your voice enters your brain through internal conduction, it bypasses the critical faculty, that mental gatekeeper, that usually filters out information it deems untrue or unrealistic. Your subconscious accepts the resonance of your own bones as the absolute, undisputed truth. Why does this matter? Because the subconscious mind is not a judge. It is a gardener. It does not ask, "Are you sure you want to plant nightshade?" It simply receives the seed, the vibrational pattern, and begins the process of cultivation. How, then, does this recursive thinking shape our destiny? Consider the feedback loop. You hold a belief, you voice that belief, and the vibration of that voice travels through your skeletal structure, wiring that belief into your nervous system. Your nervous system then scans the environment for data that matches the vibration you have just imprinted on your marrow. When it finds that data bill, a rejection, a moment of weakness, it feeds it back to your brain as proof. This creates a reinforced reality, where your physical body literally becomes the physical embodiment of your words. How can we deconstruct this? We must realize that we have been programming our own DNA with every careless word we utter. We have been using our own skeleton as a transmitter for the very lack we wish to escape. The philosophical shift required is to understand that you are the most powerful broadcaster on earth, and your bones are the antenna. If your words vibrate through your very frame, then every statement of I am is literally reshaping your internal biology. We are not just talking about psychological change. We are talking about a restructuring of the self. By intentionally choosing the vibration, by speaking words of life, of strength, of abundance, you are vibrating your own cells into a new configuration. You are, quite literally, changing the frequency at which your being operates. You are not a prisoner of your genetics. You are the architect of your own resonance. In the high, mountain-bound kingdom of Athildorn, there lived an ancient blacksmith named Kalos. Kalos was not known for swords or shields, but for his collection of tuning bells. These were not ordinary bells. They were forged from a rare, resonant ore that responded to the hum of the human voice. One day, a young royal, burdened by the heavy weight of the crown, came to Kalos. "My life is a constant, discordant clamor," the royal confessed. "My people are restless, my treasury is low, and my own mind is a cage of doubt. I feel as though the world is striking me from every side, trying to shatter my resolve. How can I regain the harmony of a king?" Kalos did not answer with advice. He led the royal to a set of bells suspended in a dark, cool alcove. "Speak to the bell," Kalos commanded. The royal leaned close and whispered, "I am a king, but I am failing." The bell remained cold. It did not hum. It did not ring. "Speak again," Kalos urged. "Speak not as one who reports on a failing kingdom, but as one who holds the frequency of the kingdom in his bones." The royal took a deep breath, grounding his feet into the stone floor, feeling the connection of his own skeleton to the earth. He reached into the depth of his being, beyond the fear and the exhaustion, and declared with a calm, resonant tone, "I am the strength of my people. I am the harmony of the land." The bell did not just ring, it sang. It began to vibrate with such intensity that the other bells in the alcove, though untouched, began to hum in sympathetic resonance. The sound was not a thin, fleeting thing, it was a heavy, golden, physical presence that permeated the entire chamber, vibrating through the royal's very marrow. "Do you see?" Kalo said, his voice quiet. "The bell does not care for your bank account or your crown. It cares only for the frequency you offer it. Your body is that bell. When you speak your truth, you must do so with the full weight of your skeleton behind the sound. If you speak from the surface, you get a surface result. If you speak from the bone, you reshape the very atmosphere of your life." The royal left the mountain not with a new decree from the Senate, but with a new command for his own bones. He realized that the chaos of his life was merely a lack of resonance. He had been shouting at the world when he should have been vibrating with the power of his own existence. The embodiment of this truth requires you to become the guardian of the resonant chamber. Today you must recognize that your voice is not a tool for reporting, but a tool for invoking. When you wake, do not allow the first sounds you make to be those of complaint or assessment of the day's tasks. Instead, stand in the silence, feel the weight of your spine, the alignment of your frame, and speak your I am into your own bones. Feel the vibration travel through your jaw and into the center of your head. Do not just speak the words. Feel them as a physical sensation of truth. When you speak to others, treat your voice as a sacred transmission. If you find your thoughts spiraling into fear, do not let them cross your lips. Stop. Physically change your posture, straighten your spine, open your chest, and speak a counter-decree, ensuring you feel the vibration in your thoracic cage. You are the broadcaster. You are the antenna. You are the signal. If this insight into the physical power of your voice has stirred a change in your own resonance, I invite you to share this wisdom by hitting the like button. Let the digital signal of your own intention join with ours. By subscribing to this path, you commit to the daily maintenance of your internal frequency. But consider this: we have discussed how to speak, and we have discussed how to identify the I am, yet there remains a shadow that haunts the master. Even when you speak with the power of the bone, even when you align your frequency, there's a testing time, a dark, silent interval where the world seems to refuse to yield. Many of you have felt it. You plant the seed, you vibrate the bone, and yet the screen of your life remains black. You are standing in front of the projector, and you are terrified that the bulb has burned out. In our next chapter, we will walk through the testing time. We will explore why the gap between the decree and the manifestation is the most vital part of the creative process, and how you can remain unshakable when the world screams that your power is a lie. We will master the art of standing in the dark, knowing with absolute certainty that the light is about to hit the screen. The bells are waiting to be struck. The resonance is gathering. Are you ready to hold your ground when the world goes silent? There exists a singular, golden hour of the morning, just before the sun has fully conquered the horizon, when the world is held in a state of suspended potential. Imagine a person standing on a high cliff, overlooking a sea that is neither dark nor light, but a shimmering violet gray. The air is crisp, biting with the promise of the coming day. They are not waiting for the sun to give them permission to be awake. They are, in this moment, the one who summons the dawn. They stand with feet planted firmly, a tripod of spirit, mind, and bone. They take a breath, not a shallow, hurried inhalation of someone who is late, but a deep, rhythmic draft that fills the chest until it expands like a bellows. In this stillness, they perform the first movement of the master architect, the full declaration. They do not whisper. They do not plead. They do not negotiate with the shadows of their own past. They speak, and their voice is a clarion call that seems to pierce the very veil of the atmosphere. I am wealthy. I am healthy. I am divinely guided and protected. There is no resistance in their heart. There is no inner monologue shouting, "But look at your empty wallet," or "But you are alone." There is only a profound, resonant yes. It is the sound of a sovereign claiming their kingdom. Most people live their lives in a state of perpetual hedging, casting spells with a shaky hand and a stuttering heart. But here, the declaration is absolute. It is a total alignment. It is the moment when the internal and the external cease to be two separate things and become a singular, unified force. The paradox is this. The person is claiming a reality that has not yet manifested in the physical, yet they feel as if they have already arrived. They have bypassed time. They have stepped into the God state, where the word is the reality, and the reality is the word. To grasp the mechanics of the full declaration, one must shed the armor of analytical doubt. Philosophically, the full declaration is the manifestation of the sovereign state. It is the recognition that the divine spark within the individual is the same frequency that animates the stars. Why is it that the full declaration functions only when there is no resistance? Because the universe is a receiver of signals, and it is governed by the law of integrity. If a person speaks, "I am wealthy," but their heart is vibrating with the frequency of "I am needy," they are sending a mixed signal. The universe, in its infinite accuracy, cannot manifest the wealthy because the signal is corrupted by the needy. The needy is the dominant frequency, and thus the one the universe obeys. The why behind the failure of most affirmations is this lack of vibrational integrity. The word is the wand, but the heart is the power source. If the power source is cracked by doubt, the wand produces only sparks, never the flame. How, then, does one achieve this state of total alignment? It is achieved through the practice of presence dominance. One must become so anchored in the current moment of their own divinity that the evidence of the material world becomes secondary. This is not delusion. It is a higher form of perception. When you declare, "I am healthy," and you feel the yes vibrating in your chest, you are not denying the existence of a symptom. You are asserting that the symptom is a transient shadow that must submit to the light of the eternal state. You are choosing to perceive the true self rather than the manifested condition. Recursive thinking demands that we ask, how can I ensure my declarations are always held in this high frequency? The answer lies in the preparation of the vessel. You cannot issue a royal decree from a place of agitation. You must reach the stillness first. By engaging the physics of the bone, which we have already mastered, you create the physical resonance that prepares the body to receive the truth. When the body is calm, and the marrow is vibrating with the intent of the spirit, the resistance of the ego dissolves. The ego, which usually screams, "This isn't true," finds no traction in a body that is already vibrating at the frequency of the truth. Ultimately, the full declaration is the art of claiming the inheritance. It is not about asking for something you do not have. It is about recognizing what is already yours by divine right. It is a transition from a beggar's mentality to an owner's mentality. You are not begging the universe for wealth. You are declaring that, as a child of the source, wealth is the natural byproduct of your existence. In the ancient, desolate lands of the north, there lived a legendary warrior named Aris. Aris was famous for a single feat. He had once walked into a blizzard that had claimed the lives of 1,000 men, and he had returned without a single mark of frostbite. The villagers asked him if he carried a protective talisman or a hidden hearth of coals. Aris merely smiled. "I carry neither," he said. "I carry a declaration." Aris explained that when he entered the blizzard, he did not fight the cold. He did not say, "I am freezing," or "I am struggling." He understood that the cold was an impersonal force, and if he gave it his attention, it would own him. Instead, he stood in the heart of the gale and, with every breath, he declared, "I am the fire of the sun. I am the eternal heat of the source. I am impervious to the shadows." He did not just say the words. He felt them. He imagined the solar core burning within his chest, radiating outward through his veins, warming his bones, defying the biting, icy needles of the storm. He held this declaration until it became his only reality. The blizzard became a backdrop. He was the center of the world. One night, his young apprentice tried to replicate this. He entered the storm, his teeth chattering, and shouted, "I am the fire of the sun. I am the eternal heat." But as he shouted, he looked at his numb fingers. He felt the ice creeping into his skin. His mind screamed, "You are lying. You are freezing to death." Because his heart was filled with the icy terror of the storm, his words were brittle. They shattered in the wind like thin glass. He collapsed in the snow, saved only by Eris, who found him barely alive. "Master," the apprentice wept, "the words did not work. The storm did not hear me." Eris knelt by his side. "The storm does not have ears, my son. The universe is not listening to your words. It is listening to the frequency of your heart. You were shouting, 'Fire,' while your heart was a block of ice. The blizzard only obeyed the truth of your terror. You must be the heat before you speak of the fire. You must feel the warmth until the blizzard itself is forced to change its nature." Eris taught him that the declaration is not a spell you cast upon the world. It is a transformation you ignite within the self. When the inner state and the outer word finally lock into place, the world cannot help but rearrange itself to accommodate the truth of the speaker. To embody the full declaration today, you must identify the moments when your spirit feels open and unimpeded. Do not force these declarations when your mind is a storm of doubt. Instead, cultivate the garden of your inner state until the yes becomes natural. When you feel that opening, that expansive, quiet, certain yes in your chest, that is your moment of sovereignty. Stand tall. Feel the crown of your head reaching toward the infinite and your feet anchored in the earth. Speak your identity, your supply, and your purpose. Speak them not as a request, but as an announcement of an established fact. I am wealthy. I am healthy. I am divinely guided. Feel the vibration. If your mind attempts to argue, breathe through it. Do not fight the doubt, simply return to the yes. You are building a new foundation, and the old habits of lack are merely loose soil being swept away. If you feel the awakening of your sovereign power, if you feel the shift from beggar to heir, I invite you to declare it in the comments below. Write your I am statement for the world to see, and in doing so, sign the contract of your new reality. By subscribing, you ensure that you remain within the frequency of this ongoing transformation. But here we reach the crux of the matter. We have spoken of the full declaration, the state of absolute sovereignty. Yet, the human heart is a complex, often fragile instrument. There will be days when the sun does not rise, when the yes is strangled by the sheer, crushing weight of the no. What does one do when they want to believe, but the heart is too heavy to hold the frequency? Many spiritual students falter here. They think that if they cannot feel the full declaration, they are failing. They fall into the trap of self-judgment, which only deepens the lack. But there is a secret, a bridge that allows you to ascend even when your wings are clipped. In our next chapter, we will explore the bridge declaration. It is the most vital, compassionate, and effective teaching for the journey of the soul. We will learn how to speak the truth of our process without ever validating the lie of our limitation. We will learn how to be in the process of welcoming our good, even when the horizon is dark. The wand is in your hand, and the storm is beginning to yield. Are you ready to bridge the gap between where you are and where you are inevitably destined to be? The air in the room is stale, heavy with the scent of unfulfilled intentions. A person sits at a desk, cluttered with the remnants of an ambitious morning, a planner filled with unchecked tasks, a ledger reflecting a stagnant reality. They have spent the dawn hours attempting the full declaration, trying to force their tongue to utter the words of a sovereign. But the words feel like ashes in their mouth. Every time they whisper, "I am wealthy," the mind that's cynical, relentless gatekeeper of the ego screams back with an icy, mocking liar. This is the great disconnect, the silent, painful chasm that exists between where a soul stands and where it envisions its own divinity. The person stares into the mirror, and the reflection is not a king or a queen in waiting. It is a tired human being, bruised by the world, struggling to bridge the distance between their current sorrow and their eternal potential. The paradox is agonizing. To manifest, one must hold the frequency of the destination. Yet, how can one hold the frequency of the destination when the present moment is screaming of the lack? This is where most spiritual travelers perish, not because they lack power, but because they believe that honesty with their current misery is the highest form of virtue. They think that by pretending, they are lying. They fail to realize that this moment of friction is not a failure of character. It is a call for a different kind of architecture. It is the moment the spirit demands a bridge, not a leap. To understand the bridge declaration, we must first deconstruct the fallacy of all or nothing manifestation. Philosophically, the ego thrives on the binary. Either I am there or I am not. Either I am healed or I am broken. This binary thinking is the primary cause of spiritual stagnation. Why does the full declaration often backfire for the seeker? Because the subconscious mind is a logical engine, and if you present it with a reality that is diametrically opposed to its current sensory input, it triggers a cognitive rejection. This rejection is the ego's way of protecting itself from dissonance. When you say, "I am wealthy," while sitting in a room that looks and feels like poverty, your subconscious flags the statement as a hallucination. It then reinforces the poverty identity to keep you safe from the threat of delusion. The why behind this failure is simple. You have bypassed the nervous system's need for an evolutionary step. How then does the bridge declaration operate? The bridge declaration is a process decree. It is the art of declaring the direction rather than the destination. Instead of asserting a state of being that the ego currently refuses to accept, you assert a state of motion by using phrases like, "I am in the process of," or "I am learning to welcome." You allow the ego to step aside. The ego does not fight the idea of becoming, because becoming implies a journey, and the ego understands journeys. Recursive thinking asks, how do we ensure that becoming doesn't become a permanent state of waiting? We do this by anchoring the process in the divine direction. You aren't just moving aimlessly, you are moving toward your alignment. By declaring, "I am opening to the flow of my divine supply," you are stating a truth that is happening right now. You are opening. You are in the process. This satisfies the ego's need for logical consistency while simultaneously vibrating the frequency of the inevitable destination. The philosophy of the bridge is the philosophy of the horizon. You do not reach the horizon by leaping to it. You reach it by walking toward it. The bridge declaration makes the walk sacred. It acknowledges that the transformation is already occurring beneath the surface. It is the most powerful tool for the seeker because it bridges the gap between the I am of the current condition and the I am of the divine archetype. It is not a lie. It is the most profound, tactical honesty a creator can employ. In the ancient, wind-swept highlands of Valerius, there was a chasm known as the Void. On one side stood the village of the Shaded, a place of constant twilight and limited resource. On the other stood the City of Gold, a realm of perpetual, radiant light. For generations, the villagers had been taught that to cross to the City of Gold, one had to be perfect, one had to be entirely transformed before even setting foot on the path. Many tried to leap. They would stand at the edge of the void and shout, "I am a citizen of the City of Gold." But they were weighed down by their own doubts, their own habits, and their own fears. They would leap, fail to find purchase on the air, and fall back into the shadows. Their hearts were broken, and their faith was shattered. Then came a quiet architect named Elias. He did not try to leap. He did not stand at the edge and pretend he was already in the city of gold. Instead, he went to the edge of the void and began to gather stone. He spoke to the villagers, saying, "I am in the process of building the path. I am gathering the materials that will carry me across." The other villagers mocked him. "Why do you waste your time with stones?" they asked. "If you are truly of the city of gold, you should be able to fly." Elias smiled and continued his work. He was not worried about their judgment. He was focused on the rhythm of the work, the lift of the stone, the placement of the foundation, the steady progress toward the other side. Because he declared his process, his heart remained light. He did not feel the pressure of the destination, only the satisfaction of the direction. As he built, the bridge took shape. Each stone he laid was a testament to his intention. And because he was in the process of moving, he began to carry the frequency of the city of gold with him. The light from the other side began to reflect in his eyes, in his skin, and in the very stones he placed. By the time the bridge was finished, Elias was already a citizen of the city of gold. He did not leap. He simply walked across the path he had crafted with his own declarations. He realized that the void had never been a distance to be conquered. It was a distance to be spanned, one honest, intentional step at a time. The villagers, who had spent their lives trying to force a lie, were left in the shadows. Elias, who had embraced the sacred process of the bridge, found that the city of gold had been waiting for him all along. To embody the bridge declaration today, you must grant yourself the grace of the transition. Stop trying to force a manifestation that feels like a costume you cannot fit into. If your current reality is struggling, acknowledge it not as your identity, but as the starting point of your journey. Use the bridge to soothe the ego. When the internal resistance flares, say aloud, "I am in the process of welcoming my highest good." Feel how that sentence lowers the temperature of your internal conflict. It is a true statement. You are in the process. You are moving. The universe does not care how fast you travel. It cares only that you have set your face toward the light. Use the bridge for all things. I am becoming the kind of person who manages abundance with grace. I am learning to see the divine guidance in every closed door. I am expanding my capacity to receive. These are the stones of your bridge. Each one is a sacred, true affirmation that leads you inexorably to the city of gold. If you are ready to stop leaping and start building, if you are prepared to honor the sacred process of your own becoming, I invite you to subscribe. This community is the foundation upon which we are building our bridges together. Each new member is a stone in the structure of our collective ascent. But there is a further mystery. We have spoken of identity, frequency, the physics of the bone, and the bridge of becoming. Yet there is a third, daily, relentless challenge. The weed of the old, negative I am that continues to sprout in the garden of your mind. You will catch yourself slipping. You will find yourself in a moment of frustration, and the old, destructive decree, "I am stuck, I am tired, I am alone," will tumble from your lips before you can stop it. Does this mean the progress is lost? Does it mean the bridge has collapsed? Not at all. In our next chapter, we will learn the most essential discipline for the master architect, the art of the cancel. We will learn how to turn the boomerangs of our own past against themselves, catching the negative energy in the very moment of its release and transmuting it into light. We will learn how to sweep the garden clean, not once, but as a daily, glorious ritual of maintenance. The stones are laid. The path is stretching before you. Do you hear the sound of the city of gold in the distance? The bridge is holding. Shall we take the next step? The mind is a garden that never sleeps. Even in the deepest quiet of the night, the subterranean work of the subconscious continues planting, rooting, and intertwining. Imagine a person walking through their day, a delicate, vibrant soul attempting to cultivate a life of light. They have their intentions set, they have their bridge built. Yet, observe the subtle discord. A sudden traffic jam, a sharp word from a colleague, or a glance at a depleting savings account. In a flash faster than the conscious mind can blink, the old, parasitic habit asserts itself. The lips move, and the decree is cast, I am so unlucky. Or, I am always overlooked. The sound hangs in the air, a dark, dissonant vibration that shudders against the ribs. The person freezes. The paradox here is visceral. They are a master architect who has just accidentally ignited a flame inside their own foundation. They know the law, they know the frequency. Yet, the habit is so ancient, so deeply entrenched in the neural pathways of their history, that it fires with the autonomy of a reflex. Most people respond to this slip with a surge of self-judgment, a secondary, even more destructive layer of I am such a failure at this. This is the trap of the shadow. The person stands there, feeling the weight of the boomerang they have just hurled into the ether. They know it is returning to them, laden with the weight of the limitation they just spoke. They are caught in a moment of existential vertigo, realizing that the garden is not just being planted by their desires, but by their accidental, subconscious slips. The air is still. The echo of the negative decree is fading, and the question looms. Is it possible to stop the return of the boomerang, or is the destiny of the spoken word absolute? To master the art of the cancel is to become the vigilant guardian of the creative gate. Philosophically, this principle rests on the understanding that the universe does not wait for you to finish your thought before it begins the work of manifestation. The ether is instant. The creation is concurrent with the utterance. Why is the slip of the tongue so biologically and spiritually significant? It is because language is a technology of focus. When you speak an I am statement, you are directing the entire gravitational pull of your consciousness toward that focal point. If you speak a negative, you are effectively locking your creative power onto a target of lack. The subconscious mind, being a literal servant, does not hear your intent, it hears your decree. It does not know you are just venting. It assumes you are issuing a new executive order for the structure of your life. How does the cancel and redirect mechanism work at the level of neurospirituality? The cancel is a circuit breaker. It is the conscious intervention that severs the link between the negative utterance and the subconscious mind before it has time to take root. When you speak the word cancel, you are using the power of sound to vibrate the previous, destructive word into impotence. It is not a magical charm. It is a declaration of sovereign nullification. By saying cancel, you are officially informing the universe that the previous order is retracted, null, and void. Recursive thinking compels us to ask, why is judgment the enemy of this process? When we judge ourselves for slipping, we add a second negative decree to the first. We move from I am unlucky to I am a failure. We have now doubled the toxicity. The how of the practice is therefore predicated on radical, non-reactive detachment. One must treat a slip of the tongue with the same clinical, cool efficiency as a surgeon removing an obstruction. You do not scold the wound, you heal it. You do not mourn the mistake. You rectify it. This practice is the ultimate exercise in sovereign responsibility. It teaches you that you are not a victim of your past habits, but the immediate authority over your future. The cancel is the ultimate reclaiming of the wand. It reminds the subconscious mind that you are the architect, not the architecture. You are the one who decides what is to be built, and you reserve the divine right to change the design at any moment. By mastering this, you dissolve the power of the echo, those inherited negative patterns that seek to run your life on autopilot. You break the script. You reclaim the pen. In the hidden valley of Luminara, there existed a sacred mirror pool. It was said that whatever one whispered into the pool would manifest in their life within the passing of a season. The keeper of the pool was a woman named Selene, a sage who lived in total, radiant tranquility. People came from across the world to whisper their desires for wealth, for love, for health into the shimmering, silver surface. But one day, a traveler arrived in a state of frantic agitation. He looked into the pool, saw his own weary reflection, and whispered, "I am exhausted. I am a man of no consequence." The ripples in the pool began to turn dark, a murky, swirling gray. The traveler realized what he had done and fell to his knees in panic. "No. Oh, heavens, I did not mean it. Please, forgive me. I have cursed my own harvest." He began to weep, his tears falling into the water, creating even more turbulence. Selene stepped forward, her expression serene. She did not scold the traveler for his weakness, nor did she lament the darkness spreading across the pool. She simply stepped into the shallow edge of the water, raised her hand, and spoke with a voice like a silver bell, "Cancel." Instantly, the dark ripples smoothed. The murky gray dissipated as if it had never been, leaving the water clear, still, and reflecting the brilliant azure of the sky. "The water is a faithful servant, traveler," Selene said, her voice steady. "It does not judge your sorrow, but it must obey your command. You have spent your life hurling stones into your own waters, and then you weep when the water turns to mud. Do not judge your stones. Do not fear the ripples. Simply command the stillness." The traveler watched as Selene taught him the ritual of the keeper. The moment the word leaves your lips, and you realize it is not the fruit you wish to harvest, you must strike it down. Say "cancel" with the authority of the throne. Then, immediately, without a second of pause, the shadow with the light. You do not just remove the stone. You must fill the space with a new decree. The traveler practiced. He spoke. He slipped. He said "cancel," and he replaced his sorrow with "I am restored." He saw, with his own eyes, how the pool responded instantly. The darkness did not linger. The past did not anchor him. He learned that he was not the prisoner of his slip, but the master of his correction. He left the valley a transformed man, carrying the wand of the cancel in his heart, ready to guard his own inner waters from the debris of his own thoughts. To embody the art of the cancel today, you must treat your internal garden with the vigilance of a high priestess. You are not suppressing your emotions. You are curating your reality. When a negative "I am" escapes your lips, do not beat yourself up. That is an ego trap. Instead, use the circuit breaker. Say "cancel" out loud if you are in private, or with firm, quiet intent if you are in public. In that singular moment, you have neutralized the past. You have effectively unsaid the decree. But you cannot leave a vacuum in the mind. The nature of the subconscious is to fill the void. Immediately within 3 seconds, recede the ground. If you said, "I am so overwhelmed," you stop, you cancel, and you immediately declare, "I am perfectly organized and in command of my flow." If you said, "I am always broke," you stop, you cancel, and you immediately declare, "I am in the process of manifesting a river of abundance that never runs dry." Do not analyze why you said the negative. Do not hunt for the childhood root of the habit. Simply move the energy. You are building a new momentum. With each cancel, you are burning away the old karma of your tongue. You are becoming a person who no longer allows the debris of the past to obstruct the architecture of the future. If you are finding this practice to be the missing link in your transformation, if you feel the weight of your past words beginning to dissolve, I invite you to leave a comment below. Start your comment with "I am," and follow it with a positive decree that you have reclaimed from the void. By speaking this publicly, you anchor your intention in the physical world. And if you have found value in this architecture, subscribe and join our community of architects as we continue to dismantle the old and build the new. But there is a greater architecture yet to be revealed. We have learned to name the self, to find the frequency, to build the bridge, and to keep the garden clean. Yet, there remains a persistent, nagging doubt. Is this all just a mental trick? Is this simply positive thinking in a new disguise? Many of you are sensing that there's a divine pattern, a specific, unique design for your life that existed before you were even born. You are starting to suspect that your I am is not just about making yourself feel better. It is about uncovering a blueprint that has been hidden in plain sight. In our next chapter, we will discuss the divine design. We will explore why you are not inventing your life, but remembering it. We will look at how your words are the tools that strip away the marble to reveal the masterpiece that you have always been. The fog is lifting. The pattern is emerging. Are you ready to see the face of your true purpose? Imagine a master painter standing before an expanse of primed canvas, the silence of the studio pressing against the skin like a physical weight. The painter holds the brush, not with the frantic desperation of one trying to invent something from nothing, but with the quiet, reverent poise of one who is about to reveal something that has already been perfected in the realm of the eternal. There is a profound paradox at the heart of human purpose. We are told to create our own destiny, as if we were gods throwing dice in a cosmic casino. Yet, when a soul truly touches the frequency of its own I am, the sensation is not one of invention, but of recollection. It feels as though a veil has been lifted, revealing a structure that was already etched into the foundation of the world. Observe the architect walking through a city. They see a pile of discarded brick, a tangled mess of steel, and a plot of barren dirt. To the untrained eye, it is chaos, a testament to decay. But to the architect, it is the potential of the palace that is already complete in the mind of the creator. The palace is not being made, it is being uncovered. We spend our lives frantically trying to build ourselves into something new, hoping that if we apply enough effort, enough sweat, and enough willpower, we will finally become enough. But what if the life you are struggling to build is already waiting for you, hidden beneath the layers of borrowed beliefs and the debris of external expectations? What if you are not an inventor of a new life, but the discoverer of a pre-existing design that is uniquely, divinely yours? The brush meets the canvas. The first stroke of paint does not create the image. It simply removes the mystery of the empty space. You are not a victim of circumstance, nor are you a creator of a random path. You are the vessel through which a specific, divine architecture is seeking to manifest into the physical world. To grasp the concept of the divine design, one must move beyond the egocentric belief that life is a series of lucky accidents or arduous achievements. We must dive into the philosophical bedrock of essentialism. Why do we feel this persistent, aching sense of not yet, of becoming something that always seems just beyond our grasp? The answer lies in the misalignment between our false self, the ego, and our true self, the divine pattern. The ego believes it must do to be. It believes that the design is something to be manufactured, but the divine design suggests that you are a singular expression of the source, and like a snowflake or a fingerprint, there is a specific, immutable pattern that only you can manifest. The why behind our struggle is our attempt to impose our limited, human blueprints onto a life that is already perfectly drafted by the source. How does the I am serve as the key to this design? It functions as the pin that secures the invisible to the visible. Recursive thinking reveals that we cannot think our way into our divine design because the mind is limited to the past. We must speak our way into it. By uttering your I am, you are vibrating at a specific frequency that acts like a tuning fork to the divine pattern. When you speak in alignment with your true nature, the universe, the vast, responsive field, begins to arrange your external circumstances to match that internal design. How do we distinguish between our desires and our divine design? We do this by observing the resistance factor. When you are forcing a desire that is not aligned with your design, there is a constant, grating friction, a sense of pushing a boulder uphill. When you are in alignment with your divine design, there is an effortless expansion, even in the midst of hard work. You will feel a sense of rightness, a feeling that you are finally occupying the space you were born to fill. The divine design is not a static destination. It is an unfolding. It is the realization that your life is an ancient, beautiful melody that is currently being played by your actions. The I Am is the conductor. By declaring your identity in alignment with your true purpose, you are telling the universe, I am ready to reveal the palace. You are not changing who you are. You are stripping away the marble of limitation to reveal the statue that has been there, waiting for the chisel, since the dawn of time. In the marble-rich mountains of Serafina, there lived a sculptor named Kalin. He was not a man of high status, yet he was known for a strange habit. Whenever he was commissioned to carve a bust, he would stare at the block of raw, unshaped stone for days, sometimes weeks, without ever touching it. The patrons would complain, "Why do you waste time? The stone is just stone. Start cutting." Kalin would simply reply, "The king is already in there. I am merely removing the stone that does not belong to him." One day, the queen herself visited his workshop. She was skeptical of his methods. "Kalin," she asked, "how can you be so certain that my likeness is hidden within this jagged, ugly rock? What if you carve and find only hollow stone?" Kalin knelt. "Your Majesty, I do not make the likeness. I listen for it. I speak to the stone. I say, I am the hand that reveals the truth. I hold the vision of your divine nature in my heart, and I trust that the stone which is part of this creation must yield to the frequency of that truth. If I approach the stone with doubt, the marble resists. If I approach with the conviction that the beauty is already there, the marble gives way like soft clay." He began to carve. He did not work with the ferocity of a laborer, but with the tenderness of a mother waking a sleeping child. He knew exactly where to strike because he was not guessing. He was remembering. He was following the lines that were already etched in the stone by the forces of the earth. As he carved, the stone seemed to glow. When he finished, the face of the queen emerged not as a caricature, but as a masterpiece that captured the very essence of her soul. The queen was moved. "You have performed a miracle," she whispered. Kalin shook his head. "I performed no miracle, Your Majesty. I simply refused to believe the lie of the rough, dark stone. I identified the hidden truth, and I used my tools to bring it into the light. Your life is no different. The masterpiece is already there, buried under the I am nots and the I can'ts. You are the sculptor. Stop trying to create yourself. Start identifying the masterpiece that is waiting beneath your skin." The queen realized that she had spent her life trying to become a ruler, when her true design was simply to be the light she was born to carry. She had been the rough marble, fearing she was nothing, when she was, in fact, the sculpture waiting to be revealed. To embody your divine design today, you must adopt the posture of the sculptor. You are not building a life, you are revealing a masterpiece. Observe the areas of your life where you feel the most friction, where you are trying the hardest to be something you are not. Stop. Take a breath and ask yourself, am I trying to invent this, or am I trying to remember it? When you find yourself struggling to manifest a goal that feels heavy, ask if that goal is truly part of your design or merely a costume you are trying to wear. Speak the declaration of the sculptor. I am the vessel of my divine design. I am stripping away the false and revealing the true. Whenever you feel lost, do not look for a new path. Look at the path you are on and ask what stone needs to be removed so that the beauty of your purpose can be seen more clearly. Your purpose is not a distant point in the future. It is the quality of the life you are living right now, once the debris is cleared away. If you feel the stirrings of this truth, if you feel the heavy marble of your old identity beginning to crack away to reveal the light beneath, I invite you to subscribe to this journey. By joining us, you are affirming your commitment to the masterpiece within. Your presence is a stone in the structure of this awakening. But listen closely. Even when you know the masterpiece is there, even when you have begun to carve, you will face the testing time. The stone will seem impenetrable. The world will try to convince you that you are just a block of rock and that the masterpiece is a childish fantasy. You will reach a stage in your manifestation where you have done the work, you have spoken the word, you have built the bridge, and yet silence. The outer world will seem to mock your efforts. This is the final, most glorious trial. In our next chapter, we will discuss the testing time. We will uncover the reason for the silence of the universe and why it is not a sign of failure, but a sign that the transformation is complete and is preparing to break through the surface. We will learn how to stand firm in the dark, knowing that the statue is waiting for the final strike of the hammer. The marble is beginning to fall. Do you see the image emerging? The masterpiece is almost ready to breathe. Shall we strike the final blow? The chamber is quiet, too quiet. Imagine a gardener who has meticulously prepared the soil, selected the finest seeds, and buried them with the reverence of a high priest. They have spoken the decrees, they have watered the earth with their intent, and they have cleared the weeds of doubt. Days pass, then weeks. The gardener returns to the patch of dark, undisturbed earth, expecting to see the green shoots of their labor. But there is nothing. The surface is as smooth and brown as it was on the day of the sowing. This is the moment where the soul's fortitude is measured against the indifference of the physical world. It is the paradox of the interval. You have performed the spiritual work with surgical precision. You have aligned your I am with your divine design, and yet, the external circumstances remain stubbornly locked in their old configurations. The bill remains unpaid. The relationship remains cold. The breakthrough remains a phantom. In this silence, the ego begins to whisper the most dangerous of all doubts. It didn't work. You are simply deluding yourself. The person stands before this apparent void, and the pressure is immense. They feel the temptation to dig up the seeds, just to see if they are sprouting, to scream at the sky, or to abandon the practice entirely. They do not realize that this silence is not an absence of power. It is the sound of the universe organizing itself to accommodate a new reality. The stillness is not a void, it is a gestation. To the eyes of the uninitiated, it looks like defeat. To the eyes of the master architect, it is the most sacred part of the construction. To survive the testing time, one must understand the difference between the causal plane and the manifestation plane. Philosophically, manifestation is a process of filtration. Your decree, issued from the causal plane, must travel through the layers of physical density, the realm of habits, societal momentum, and material time before it reaches the screen of your reality. Why is there a delay between the decree and the manifestation? The why is found in the law of non-collision. If the universe were to manifest your desires with the same speed at which you think them, your life would be a chaotic, fragmented mess of conflicting impulses. The delay is not a punishment. It is a buffer of mercy. It allows you to refine your focus and purge the inconsistencies in your vibration. It provides a sanctuary where your desires can take root and grow strong before they are exposed to the harsh light of the material world. How do we move from the feeling of waiting to the feeling of gestation? We utilize the recursive principle of identity persistence. The ego asks, how much longer? The master asks, who must I be while this manifests? The test is not of your ability to create. The test is of your ability to persist in your identity, despite the lack of evidence. You are being asked to prove that your I am is not contingent upon external validation. If your I am requires a bank statement to be true, it is not an I am. It is merely a reaction. How do we break the cycle of digging up our seeds? By understanding the physics of the bridge. Just because the light of the sun has not yet hit the far wall of the room does not mean the switch was not flipped. The light is traveling. The testing time is the transit period of your decree. Philosophically, we must reach the state of detached certainty. This is the highest form of faith. It is not the faith that says, "I hope this happens." It is the faith that says, "I know this has happened, and I am simply waiting for the synchronization of the physical world to catch up to the truth of my spirit." When you stop checking the mailbox for your manifestation, you indicate to the universe that you are no longer in a state of needing, but in a state of owning. The moment you stop needing the evidence is the exact moment the evidence is forced to manifest. You are shifting the frequency from "I want to," "I have," and in this high-frequency space, the resistance of the material world evaporates. You are not a victim of the time delay. You are the one who determines the depth of your conviction through that delay. In the northern reaches of the realm, there was a watchman named Kalin who served a lighthouse on a sea that stayed frozen for 9 months of the year. The villagers knew that when the ice finally broke, it would bring the merchant ships and the spring harvest. But every year, there was a period of the great stillness, a week, when the temperature would rise, the air would grow humid, and the villagers would become anxious. The ice would groan, crack, and shudder, but it would not break. The villagers would rush to the shore, crying, "The ice is too thick. It will never melt. We are doomed to another winter." They would begin to prepare for famine, abandoning their work, their panic making the time of waiting unbearable. Kalin, however, stayed in his lighthouse. He did not watch the ice. He watched the stars. He knew the cycle. He knew that the cracking sound was not the ice failing to break, it was the ice reaching the limit of its cohesion. He knew that the thickness of the ice was irrelevant to the inevitability of the thaw. One day, the mayor climbed the tower. "Kalin, look! The ice is still solid. The ships are not here. You are a fool to sit in the light when we are starving in the cold." Kalin turned from the stars. "The ships are already here, Mayor. They are simply obscured by the transition. The ice is cracking because it must. The spring is not a maybe. It is a calculation of the universe. I am not waiting for the ships. I am keeping the light burning so that when the ice gives way, they have a place to land." 2 days later, at the dead of night, a sound like a thunderclap echoed across the valley. The ice did not just melt. It shattered, opening a vast, dark path for the ships. The villagers stood in shock, their panic looking foolish in the light of the returning harvest. Kalin had known that the testing time that week of groaning, cracking, and deceptive stillness was the final step of the winter. He did not participate in the doubt of the villagers because he understood the law of the cycle. He knew that the louder the ice groaned, the closer it was to its end. He had remained unmoved, his identity as a watchman of the light, unshaken by the frozen state of the sea. To embody this truth today, you must cultivate the certainty of the watchman. When you have done your work, when you have spoken your decree, when you have cleared your garden, you must accept that the period of silence is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of finitude. The old reality is breaking, and the new reality is preparing to emerge. When the world screams that nothing has changed, do not look to the world for your truth. Look to the decree you have already spoken. Say to yourself, "I am not moved by what I see. I am moved only by what I know." That is your anchor. That is your shield. Stop checking the mailbox. Stop questioning the seed. Stop apologizing for your faith. If you feel the groan of the ice, if you hear the crack of the old foundations, do not panic. Celebrate. You are not being ignored. You are being prepared. Your supply is moving. Your life is rearranging. The invisible is becoming visible, and it is doing so with a power that will dwarf the doubt you felt in the waiting. If you are finding the strength to remain the watchman in your own life, if you are ready to stop participating in the panic of the world, I invite you to subscribe. This community is a lighthouse. By joining us, you are keeping the light burning for your own manifestation. Your commitment is the beacon that calls your harvest home. But listen, We have one final threshold to cross. We have learned to name our identity, to speak with the frequency of the bone, to build the bridge, to cancel the weeds, and to stand as the watchman during the time of testing. Yet, there is a final, crowning secret that brings all these threads together. Many of you ask, what happens when I arrive? How do I sustain this? How do I ensure that I don't slip back into the old echoes once the victory is won? In our next and final chapter, we will discuss the master of the house. We will reveal the secret of sovereignty, how to live as the permanent owner of your own existence, how to ensure that your life is not just a series of manifestations, but a sustained, radiant expression of your divine truth. We will close the circle. We will take the keys. The mansion is ready for its owner. Are you ready to step into your throne? The journey concludes not at a destination, but at a threshold. Imagine a traveler who has walked 1,000 miles, shedding the tattered rags of a borrowed identity with every passing league. They stand now before a massive, arched door, the entrance to a mansion they have owned their entire life, though they have spent their years living in the drafty, dimly lit cellar. As they reach out to grasp the heavy iron knocker, a profound realization washes over them. The house was never closed. It was never locked. It was only waiting for someone to walk through the front door with the posture of an owner. The air is thick with the scent of cedar, beeswax, and the quiet, expectant hum of a home that has been yearning for its occupant. Within these walls, every room is filled with the abundance they once begged for in the streets. The paradox of the master of the house is that the I am is not a tool used to acquire what is missing. It is a declaration of what has always been present. The traveler stands on the threshold, a key of pure intent pressed into their palm. They look back at the winding, difficult road, the bridge of stone, the garden of weeds, the cold, frozen sea, and realize that all of it was merely the curriculum of their return. They are no longer the seeker. They are no longer the apprentice. They are no longer the architect in training. They are, at last, the presence that fills the house. The silence of the mansion is not the silence of abandonment. It is the silence of an empire waiting for its sovereign to take the throne. The final, crowning truth is this: the world does not wait for you to become worthy. It waits for you to become awake. To master the house is to transcend the duality of manifestor and manifestation. Philosophically, this is the state of unitive consciousness. Most spiritual students remain perpetually stuck in the cycle of I want, I work, I attract. This is the psychology of the servant. The master of the house, however, lives from the standpoint of I am. Why is the mastery phase the most difficult to sustain? Because the ego is addicted to the thrill of the hunt. It loves the drama of the testing time and the victory of the bridge declaration. But true mastery is boring to the ego. It is quiet. It is steady. It is the refusal to engage in the constant churning of desire. The why behind the loss of mastery is the ego's desire to return to the drama of lack, because in a life of absolute sovereignty, there is no one left to blame, no one left to save, and no one left to prove yourself to. How do we sustain the state of the master? We do this through the discipline of impersonal sovereignty. The master does not try to keep their world in alignment. They abide in the house of their own being so deeply that the world cannot help but mirror their state. This is the recursive loop of being as action. You do not act to manifest, you abide as the presence, and the manifestation is the shadow cast by your light. You are not doing the work anymore, you are the work. How does the master handle the inevitable slips of life? With the casual, detached grace of an owner. If a window breaks in the mansion, the owner does not panic, nor do they question their right to live in the mansion. They simply call for the repair. They do not identify as a person with a broken window. They identify as the owner of the house. This is the shift from reactive existence to proactive embodiment. To reach this stage, One must resolve the I am into the I. The am implies a state, but the I is the source. The master of the house realizes that there is no distance between the observer and the observed. You are the mansion, you are the furniture, you are the light that illuminates the rooms, you are the silence in the hallways and the warmth of the hearth. By owning the totality of your experience, the good, the bad, the high, and the low, you dissolve the tension of creation. You are the house, and the house is full. In the empire of Oros, a young king was kidnapped as an infant and raised in the kitchens of a distant palace. He spent 20 years scrubbing floors, enduring the lash of the overseers, and dreaming of one day being free. He lived as a servant, his identity tied to the rags he wore and the labor he performed. He was, in every sense, a man of no consequence. One day, the palace was conquered, and the young man, amidst the chaos of the transition, wandered into the inner sanctum of the king's chambers. He found a set of royal robes, a signet ring, and a heavy, ornate crown sitting upon a velvet cushion. He did not know why, but when he looked at them, a strange, terrifying memory stirred in his blood. He put on the robes, he donned the crown. As he looked into the mirror, the servant vanished, and the king emerged. He realized that for 20 years he had been serving people who were, by divine right, his subjects. He had been begging for crumbs in the very halls that belonged to him. He did not have to fight a war to become the king. He did not have to earn the respect of the guards. He simply had to sit on the throne and issue a decree. The moment he occupied the throne, the palace fell into order. The guards bowed, the servants brought him wine, and the empire began to hum with the frequency of its rightful ruler. He looked at his calloused, dirty hands, the hands that had scrubbed the floors, and realized that they were the same hands that had been meant to hold the scepter. He was not a new person, he was simply a returned one. He had spent his life in the cellar, not because the throne room was empty, but because he had forgotten that he was the one the throne was waiting for. He learned the final secret. The king is not the man who conquers the empire. The king is the man who recognizes that the empire is his by birthright, and who stops acting like a servant the moment he remembers his name. To embody the role of the master of the house today, you must stop living in the cellar of your own past. Recognize that the mansion you have been building, the bridge you have been crossing, and the harvest you have been awaiting are all inside of you. You do not need to attract your life. You need to inhabit it. Walk through your day with the posture of an owner. When you face a challenge, ask yourself, how would the master of this house handle this? The answer is never with panic. The answer is with calm, sovereign authority. You own the space, you own the time, you own the frequency. Do not wait for the external world to crown you. The world only reflects the authority you already hold. If you act like a guest in your own life, the world will treat you like one. If you act like the master, the world will clear the way for your passage. Your final mission is this: go forth and occupy the throne of your own being. Let your life be a testament to the fact that you have remembered who you are. If you have been touched by this journey, if you feel that the crown is resting on your brow, I invite you to subscribe, not for the sake of the numbers, but for the sake of the resonance. We are a brotherhood and sisterhood of architects, watchmen, and masters. Our work is the creation of a new reality. You have reached the end of the transcript, but you have reached the beginning of the legacy. The house is open. The throne is waiting. The wand is in your hand. The universe is not listening to your words anymore. It is watching the way you carry yourself through the halls of your own kingdom. You are divinely guided. You are divinely provided for. And you are, in every atom of your being, the master of the house. Go now and rule with the only power that ever existed, the quiet, unwavering authority of your own I am. The empire is yours. Walk into the light.